What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we have a new meta formation and new meta tactics to discuss. Now, this isn't going to be the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. This isn't going to be the 4-4-2, or God forbid, the 4-2-3-1 narrow that everyone and their mother has used for the past 17 years. No. This is going to be a formation that not a lot of people have actually been using, and that is, drumroll, the 4-1-4-1. Now, I'm sure a bunch of people just clicked off the video just from hearing the 4-1-4-1, but for the people that stayed, you deserve a reward, and that is going to be the tactics and formations. So like with every tactics and instructions video, we'll go over the tactics and instructions. Believe it or not, it's a crazy concept. We'll also go over the types of players you want, but we also have some gameplay to show you kind of where the players are going to position themselves and why we have the certain instructions on them, right? So we'll really go in depth here. Now, this is the team that I'm using, and it is a pretty good team, but it's not the most meta thing ever, right? Yes, you do have good players like Klaus, Fofana, you have players like Gozens that a lot of people have used, but you also have players that are, not used a whole lot. You have the Silver Stars in here, you have Kudus, you have Boateng that people have been slating, you have Wirtz that I personally have been slating. Now, Wirtz himself has actually been great in this formation, so if I can get Wirtz to work, someone who I've really not liked this year, then I do think it is a very good formation. Like I said, it is the 4-1-4-1 formation. This is what it looks like. It's a striker with left and right mids, left and right center mids, a defensive mid, and then a classic 4 at the back. Now, like I said, we will go over gameplay and show why we have certain instructions on and where the players are going to be consistently moving, where you're going to be finding these players on a regular basis. But without further ado, let's get into the tactics first. Now, in my opinion, the tactics are far less important than the instructions themselves. At least that's what I personally think, because a lot of this you can adjust for yourself to see where you would, where you actually want it to be, right? Some people might prefer 70 depth to 60. Some people might prefer 55 width to 45, right? So everyone's a little bit different here. You can tweak it to your own volition. It's just whatever you'd want, but these are just the tactics that I personally have. However, I will mention some of the times where I would really strongly recommend what I have versus what may be particularly maybe a little bit better for you, or what you think might be better. First off is the defensive style. Now, this is something that I really recommend putting on balance for a couple of reasons, because one, putting on pressure on heavy touch, press after possession loss, constant pressure, drop back, in my opinion, all of those things are kind of cheesy. That's just what I think. You're having 11 of the AI players press for you. I think that's a little cheesy. But more importantly than that, having it unbalanced is good because one, this is a formation that is naturally good at pressing. You have a bank of 4 in the midfield with left mids, left center mids, right center mids, but you also have a defensive mid to help cover for that. So you can be a little bit more aggressive in your pressing. Along with that, when you do pressure on heavy touch and pressure after possession loss, constant pressure, all that stuff, you are going to be a little bit more prone to a counterattack. And again, why would you take that unnecessary risk when this is a naturally good pressing formation anyway? So in my opinion, you just leave it unbalanced. For the width and the depth, I have the width at 45, I have the depth at 60. Now, like I mentioned before, you can kind of change that to whatever you want. I probably wouldn't go, like 95 width for whatever reason, or 20 depth for whatever reason. I wouldn't change it that drastically, but if you want to go again to like 40 width, if you want to go to 70 depth or something like that, you probably can, and it should be okay. So again, that should be essentially whatever you want to do there. Now for the attack, we have the build up on balance, chance creation on direct passing, width on 45, and players in the box at 6. Obviously, corners and free kicks, you can kind of do whatever you want. For the build up play, I prefer balance. Now, this is something that I would really recommend doing, because I've seen a lot of people do the fast build up and the long ball, which it has their place, but this is not a formation that is going to be good for it, because without revealing some instructions, or at least a lot of them, we're going to have a lot of players going forward and not a lot of them on stay back while attacking. So when you have fast build up and you have players just on their default kind of balanced attack, they're going to be sprinting up the field, and so we're going to have essentially like a wall of 7 up in the attack, and we obviously don't want that, so we want it to be unbalanced. The chance creation is on direct passing. You probably could tweak that a little bit to whatever you want, but I would probably recommend direct passing, because like I mentioned before, we will have a lot of players going forward, and this is going to be very helpful in finding those players when you can do those driven passes. Width is at 45. I would prefer a little bit more of a narrow formation, just because our left and right mids, again, we'll go over the instructions, but they are on cut and side and they are already wide. They are naturally in a wide position. I do want it to be at least a little bit more narrow. And then players in the box is going to be at 6, and I prefer that just because, again, this is going to be an attack-minded formation with attack-minded tactics and instructions. So we want a good amount of players in the box. Next, we'll move on to the instructions. Now, I will show you kind of where the natural spot is for the attack, kind of where the idea is for a lot of these attackers, and so then we'll not only show you this beforehand just to kind of get an idea and help it make sense, but then we'll show it afterwards as well, so then you can kind of put it all together. So in this situation, this is where we want our attacking players. So as you can see, we have a very good build-up here because we have 5 attackers here in the green, and there's only 4 defenders in the white. We completely bypassed his 2 defensive mids while he was using the 4-2-3-1, which is exactly the idea here. We want to create these overloads so then we have a good advantage. Now, this is the perfect setup here because, like I said, this is where you want some of your players to be. So what's going to happen here is we have our striker right here. He's going to be on stay central and target man, so he's not going to move a lot from this spot. We have both of our center mids here going to be bombing forward right into this open space, and then we also have our left and right mids, or outside mids, right here on come short and cut inside. So they're not going to be running in this way because they're not getting behind, but they're on come short. So what's going to happen is they're going to be coming in this direction. They're going to be going backwards a little bit, and essentially they're going to be filling this hole that was left from the center mids. And so what happens is you have a lot of this free-flowing movement here from the center mids and the outside mids because they're going to be making runs forward. You have your left and right mids on cut inside and come short, but then you also have a little bit of predictability, which is good for you because then you can always know where this one spot is, and that is the striker here. Again, he's on target man, he is on stay central, so he's not only going to be in that one spot as a target man, not making runs in behind, which is good, but he's also going to not really be moving from side to side a lot. He'll be moving, maybe 5 to 10 yards to his left or right, and that's good, right? Again, we need at least some predictability in the attack, so then, you can at least rely on someone where they are going to be consistently. So again, that was just a preview. We'll go over it at the end as well, so then it kind of all comes together, but that's what I essentially want to be showing you in the attack. That's where all of these players are going to be coming in to play. So starting off now with the actual instructions. Our center backs are just going to be on default everything. That's what you want. Goalie's going to be on comes for crosses, and sweeper keeper, that's typically going to be what everyone does. But then for the left and right backs, we want them on balanced everything. Essentially, the entire defense is just going to be on the completely default settings. The left and right backs aren't going to be really getting up the field a whole lot, but when they do, they can help provide those overloads because then the left or right mids, whatever side they're on, they will be making their instructions and their runs on the inside a lot more, especially if the, again, left or right back, whatever side you're on, is going to be going forward a little bit. So in this clip, you can see here we have Klaus, our right back, making this overlapping run. And this is what I'm talking about here, right? Because we have Verts, who is on, cut inside and on come short. We sent him forward, and we did that for a reason, because now the defense has to worry about all of these players here. If they don't worry about him, we can pass them the ball and then we can score. So what this does is that allows all of his defenders to be running back, and then worry about that, and then take the pressure off of us. Keep in mind, this is not just for the right back, but it is for the left back as well. Next, we have our defensive mid. Now, this is just going to be pretty typical instructions for defensive mid, and that is stay back while attacking and the cover center, right? We essentially have 5 players going forward at all times with the 2 center mids, the left and right mids, and the striker. They're all going to be in the attack. So we do need some type of, anchor man, someone that's going to help out defensively from the midfield, and that is going to be this defensive mid. So defensively, it's going to be a pretty standard thing where, again, right, it's just going to be that anchorman role. They can help out defensively, and then that's it. However, it's also important to note that they do have a role in the attack as well, because what they offer in the attack is not goals necessarily. I don't think Gosens has had a shot, let alone a goal, but they offer a chance to help recycle possession because, again, they're not going to be going forward. We don't have them on free roam. We want them to stick to their position so then we know where they are consistently, and it is a predictable pass because then we know where they are majority of the time. So take this clip for example, right? We have Gosens right here. He runs forward here, right? Even though he is on stay back while attacking, he runs forward because he has high attacking work rates. Now, he's not going to get into the box, which is a good thing. We actually don't want that. So what happens is he stops on the edge of the box. That's great. But then you can see here we get him the ball. Again, that's kind of helping not necessarily recycle possession, but just helping move the ball because we were kind of stuck with Fofana. We have this open spot here out wide, and then look what he does. Did you see what he did? He went from coming here and then he went backwards. Again, he's that anchorman role. He's providing an outlet. So then let's say a defender was in Kamaldeen's way. That means that then we could pass it back to Gozens and then recycle possession and then keep the ball. You know what's nice is we actually end up scoring from this on a very, very cheesy goal. Essentially, all of the goals here, if you see a lot of them are going to be cheesy. Next up, we have our center mids. Now, one of them is going to be on cover center. Everything else is the default settings. The other center mid is going to be on get forward, cover center, and free roam. Now, one of them who is better, a little bit better at attacking, is going to be on the get forward, free roam, and the one who's more of a box to box, someone who is maybe a little bit, better defensively than the attack-minded center mid, they're the ones that are going to be on just cover center. However, I do want to point out that both center mids should be capable at defending and attacking. Both of my center mids here, Fofana and Boateng, have gotten a lot of tackles, interceptions, but have also provided a lot in the attack. It's just Boateng is a little bit better at going forward than Fofana. He also has the 4-star weak foot, the 4-star skills, whereas Fofana is a little bit better defensively than Boateng. But again, both players should be good at going forward and going back. Now we'll throw it back to a clip we've already shown with our right back. However, this is also a good clip for our two center mids here. So what's going to happen is they're going to be running forward here, and that's very good. But then you can see a little bit of variability between the center mid who gets forward and the center mid who's just on balance, right? You can see here that both of them are in a more attack-minded area, right? They're somewhat close to the box here. But then you have Boateng making this run forward here, right? You can see this open space that he's making, whereas Fofana here is going to be taking up the attention of the defensive mids. And so what's going to happen is, again, we want our opposition player to make a choice. Does he want to cover this run of Boateng and leave Fofana open? Does he want to cover Fofana and leave Boateng open? And, again, then we also have to, the opposition has to worry about the left and right mids and the striker as well. And so these two center mids that are going to be making runs forward, they are essentially just causing a lot of chaos. But along with that, they are going to be scoring a lot of the goals, getting a lot of assists here, right? It's this variability here, this just little, change that where they're not in the completely same spot that, it's going to make the defender or the opposition player really think and work to defend. Now for the outside mids, we have them both on cut inside and come short. Now, I've mentioned before, and before we're talking about all the instructions, kind of where the left and right mids are going to be, right? So again, because the center mids are pushing forward, we want them on come short, so then they can fill the spot of where the center mids were going to be. But along with that, it's also where their positioning is when we have a solid attack going. So as you can see here, we get the ball over with Kamaldeen here. Sulemana has the ball, which is great. And you can see here, look at the positioning of Verts. He's not playing right mid, he's not playing right wing, he's not out by the corner flag or by the touchline. He is right here, right into the box, waiting for the ball to come in. Now, as we all know, cutbacks are extremely overpowered here, and yes, I do get lucky by getting the ball to Fofana here. Now, right here, I should have had a little bit more composure, because as you can see, Verts is completely wide open. We just get the ball, pass it to him, and that's going to be a goal. Now, we get extremely lucky, not just with the pass to Fofana, but also with the shot here, because just fortunately for us, the shot gets blocked and we have Verts right there. So I'm not saying that the goal was good, right? That's just not what I'm saying. The goal was god-awful. What I am praising is the positioning of these left and right mids, because even though we were extremely lucky getting the ball to Fofana, it was the fact that Verts was there in the position ready to pounce on it. And again, yes, we got lucky, but it was the fact that he was in that position ready to score the goal. Lastly, for instructions, we have our striker, and that is on stay central and target man. Now, there's a reason for that, right? And I'll show you in this clip here. The striker here is on stay central and target man for a few reasons. One, he's kind of acting in a similar way with our defensive mid, right? We mentioned with our defensive mid that he's just going to be that anchor man, someone we can consistently rely on to pass back and recycle the ball when we need to, right? He's not doing anything fancy. He's not making runs. He's not even free roaming. He's just in the same spot consistently, and if we need to pass him the ball, he will be available to make the pass. Essentially, that is what our striker is doing when he's on stay central and target man. He's in this area to just constantly annoy one of the opposition center backs, because if they for one moment do not mark him, he's going to be wide open for a shot. So they constantly have to have one player on this player, right, on our attacker at all times. Otherwise, we have a free shot. Along with that, though, we have 4 players here that are constantly making runs around this striker, right? We have all 4 of these guys that are constantly going to be making runs around this guy, right? Again, we have the center mids going forward. We have the left and right mids kind of coming inside and filling the roles of that spot, right? And so we need a little bit more consistency from one of the players so we consistently rely on him. Not only that, but it also provides us an easy opportunity for a 1-2 pass because Kudus here, because he is on Stay Central, what we can do is get the ball to with one of our center mids, pass it to Kudus, and then pass it back to our center mid. And again, we don't have to just rely on one side to do this, right? Because again, we have Fofana on the other side with high attacking work rates. It could be the exact same thing. Pass it into Kudus, and then pass it right back. And look, then we're going to have a wide open shot to go right at the goal. So again, ending off, hopefully this, what we were trying to talk about before, all of the instructions makes a little bit more sense now, right? Again, our center mids goes forward. We can provide some 1-2s with them if Kudus is in the right spot and the pass is open. Otherwise, we can have our left and right mids cutting on the inside. If not, they can make runs well, right? It's not as if these instructions are going to be, you know, definitive every single time. They'll be doing it every single time. That's not necessarily what's going to be happening. You can send your left and right mids on runs when it makes sense, and you know, they will be getting open if they have enough pace for it. Now, to end off, we'll talk about the types of players you want, and specifically we'll talk about the center mids, because I feel as though those guys are going to be the most important. In fact, I would say that the center mids, right, the two central center mids and then the striker, those three players in that triangle is arguably the most important on the field. If you do not have your three best players in those spots, I do think you're going to be a little bit at least dead in the attack. So again, I do think those three spots are going to be the most important, and then beyond that, as long as you have some good players and positions that you like, right? So Wirtz, for example, he does well enough, that's fine with me. Sulemana, he does well enough, that's fine by me. Gozens is, you know, a good player to have at the defensive mid because he can get forward. He provides an opportunity for, you know, to recycle the ball, but he also gets back with the high defensive work rates. So again, beyond these three players at the two center mid spots and the striker, I think whatever you prefer in the other spots should work. Just really make sure you focus in on those three spots. So that is going to do it for this tactics and instructions video. Hopefully you guys have learned something from it. Hopefully you guys do well with it. If you do need any help, let me know in the comments and I'll try to help you guys out. But like I said, that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.